Martin Show. It's Tell It Like It Is Tuesday. Tonight we're
Taco
talking the
Tuesday.
state of the Florida Gators dealing with some injuries. Will DJ Lagway play against Texas or will he not? We'll also look at the college football playoff rankings, get into all things Florida Gators, sports, this and that, all that and more on the Buddy Martin Show Tuesday edition. Hit that like and subscribe button and let's get to it.
Let's go.
For Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
Ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I'm your host, Loren Meadows, joined by Rob Browne of SEC Sidelines, Brenden Martin, executive producer of Gator Bait Media, and all sorts of things.
All of your lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here to kind of break it all down. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to my hometown team, my high school, the Meadowdale Lions. I forgot to give them a shout out last week. First city championship in 25 years. So, they've been trying to get it together there. So really proud of my guys up there. And just want to give a shout out to the Meadowdale Lions. Actually ended up, their season ended. They took one in the first round of playoffs. But for those of you who know a little bit about Dayton, Ohio, for them to get that win and first time and just a great.
You got a cheer for us? Maybe is there like
was
a fight
that
song? You got a fight song? You got a cheer?
Man, shoot, it's been 30-some years, bro. I can't
Come
even.
on.
I know the alma mater, but I can give you the alma mater.
Rob and I don't do it like
Meadowdale, oh Meadowdale, our hearts belong to you. Our loyalty we pledge to thee. For loyal hearts and true, the lion spirit, brave and bold, will proudly wear the black and gold. Our loyal hearts will ever be
free.
Another part of something. I don't know. Okay, there you go.
There you go.
So anyway, how you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. My dogs were that was good stuff.
Hey man, it's funny. What's that?
I can't sing. We had to sing the alma mater and the fight song when we were pledges, and verbatim. And I still, that was good. That was very good.
If the Ohio Northern Polar Bears get a good one, I'll rock that one out too. I still remember that one. That was a little bit.
That's pretty good.
So we used to help start that one, so it's a little bit different. But
what's cool is you're not tone deaf. That was cool.
Yes,
that's cool. Perfect pitch.
Indeed, Winthorpe.
Perfect pitch absolutely. In Ohio they have, huh?
But
singers up there, huh?
But big news, Rob. We had a great football game down in Jacksonville. I know you watch up in Jacksonville. Actually, you watched it.
I was watching.
And one of those things where you look at the college football playoff rankings coming out. And, I think the big discussion was Ohio State right? Were they in their rightful place being ranked ahead of Georgia? Was it the better loss or the better win, so to speak? We'll get into that. But, when you look at the game in Jacksonville, I mean, I really think that, kind of touching on things and you guys can chime in. I mean, I think Georgia dodged a bullet. And, it was like the slip heard around the world. I mean, when DJ Lagway went out, I really thought the Gators had put together a game plan that was, it kind of had Georgia rocking and rolling in a bad way, and I thought they were getting to Carson Beck, had him it kind of reminded me. You remember when that year that Ohio State played Ken Dorsey in that Fiesta Bowl and just kind of forced him off some off-platform throws early. It kind of looked like that. It reminded me of that, where they were actually able to kind of collapse the pocket, and then that forced him into some the first interception was an off-platform throw, and then the second he never even saw Aaron Gates, the nickelback, and really was kind of trying to, really had a tough time the whole night. But early in the game, with coinciding with the fact that Florida was able to move the football, I mean, Georgia really seemed to dodge a bullet, Rob.
Well, you know what? Last week on the show when we were talking about what's your score prediction, I had thought DJ Lagway would give Florida a good chance to win. I thought Florida would play a good game, but I still thought Georgia would win. I had my prediction was Georgia 32, Florida 21. But even with Lagway going out in the second quarter with a hamstring pull, injury, strain, whatever, it was a 20-20 game with less than 7 minutes to go. Okay,
No doubt.
So as critical as we, and I know I have been, of Billy Napier, what's going on is with the portal and NIL, you don't build football programs like you did in 2014. It's a different world we live in. If Florida pulls the plug on Billy Napier now, you're going to blow up another recruiting class, and you're just going to be going further behind. And then who you're going to go get, you don't know. But you forego the recruiting because it's December. So that was a big statement, I think, by Florida. And they've got, I believe DJ Lagway's better than any freshman quarterback in college football.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that, and I got to give credit to our guy, Buddy Martin. I mean, Buddy Martin called it early, and I really do. I mean, you watch him, you watch his swag, you watch him in warm-ups, the way that he handles the football team, his level of confidence for a true freshman, it's unbelievable. And, you mentioned Billy Napier, and, I was there in Jacksonville. You saw a team that was playing with passion. And not just for the head coach that may or may not be fired, but playing for each other, the love of the game. And they really, and Billy Napier mentioned this in the press conference, for the first time, it was a team that believed that they could beat Georgia. Now, some people took that out of context. So, well, for the first time, they believed they could win. No, what he said was, for the first time, they really expected, for lack of a better term, to come in and punk Georgia. And they were making a play at that. And then you go further, you look at it. He's lost his first and second string quarterback. By the end of the game, they were down to their what I call their 5th and a half corner because Trikweze Bridges really plays safety, had to go to corner. They were without Montrell Johnson. For whatever you think, who's the best back in the backfield, he's still a solid college back and has had success against Georgia. You take all those things into account. And the question does beg, and Brenden, you could chime in too. Has he bought himself another year with the way that the team has played, the improvement, the ability to say to his defensive players, okay, it's too complicated for you. Let's simplify it. Let's change the way we practice, and let's try to get better. One would say, well, why weren't they doing that all along? But like I told somebody earlier today, you get the opportunity to change as a football coach. It's just like if you're doing anything, with this Gator bait thing, we get the opportunity to adjust it. We get to change what we do every Tuesday night and going forward. What? So, I think that, and Brenden, while we're waiting on Rob, you could chime in. I mean, I know you and I both have agreed in some ways, but watching this team play, you played, is there something to be said for a team that seems to be getting better and seems to be playing well under this particular coach?
I mean, the obvious answer is yes. I mean, I don't think I can disagree with that. I think any team is going to get better. And do they look better, or is Georgia not as good as everyone hoped? I don't know. I hate that game, honestly. And I really hate the game of the moral victory shit. I don't like at all.
No, not at all.
I'm done with we played real hard and we looked real good and we were almost there.
Right.
Because I think great teams are a little lucky, and I think great teams also win games that are ugly, and they keep scrawling and scratching. And I think when you had Georgia was so good last year, to come back and be so good again is hard. I think I just think that Georgia is still a pretty darn good football team. I think they've got all, those things firing. I think they've got their own injury bug. I think you're in the SEC. The SEC bludgeons itself. I think that's what we see this year more than any other year. I see that more this year is the SEC is really beating each other up because week in and week out, you've got a Vandy, you got a Mississippi State, and these teams are not bad teams. So you got to bring it to win. And I think, I just really believe in the end. I'm really waiting for when is it going to be not the snap or the play or the thing or the this or the that? When is the big rivalry win going to come into play? Because if this is the year you're going to beat Georgia, if you're going to beat Georgia, this is a really good year to do that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean,
I feel like you kind of should have won that game.
Right. Well, and I do think if Lagway finishes the game, they do. I think that was a tall order.
Well, and then can I ask a question? This is I truly am asking a question.
Sure.
That, I really liked when was it last year when the kid from CSU, we got him in the portal. What's his name? The quarterback Millen. Yeah. Millen. Yeah. And I didn't know much about the walk-on from Yale. Sorry, I'm really tired tonight. Yeah. And so, but I just didn't know where they were going to go there. It's like, what was going to be third string? Who was going to be this next guy coming in?
Right.
And I saw somebody ask a really good question, Rob, is is it really, this is our walk-on is our choice for third string at the University of Florida? And I was like, God, that's a really good point. I was like, maybe we should have a better, situation considering. So I don't know. Again, I'm trying really not to fall back into this hater position and be all negative because I don't think that's healthy as far as that's concerned. But I guess, the long answer is that it was a really close win, almost win, just like in Tennessee, just like in Missouri last year.
Right. And from a football standpoint, I agree with you 100%. I think Rob is correct, though. Here's the situation is, like Rob said, who you going to get? And you start this revolving door over again. But that's not, you guys are on with people every morning. And let's be real about it. I'm not sure that's going to go down. So with that, you're talking,
but I hear that, but I see Feinbaum literally come out and be like, he's so passionate about the fact that he thinks it's good. Now, you don't have to like the guy, but I don't know him.
No, I don't. I think Paul Feinbaum's great.
I think he's great, but he's very, very vocal about how he, Lane Kiffin really wants this job, and he talked about it the other day, and look, nobody knows. We are in the middle of a whole, we thought at this point we'd have a lot more answers. We have a lot more questions, I think.
Oh, no doubt. And I can honestly say some of the big money people kind of feel the same way. They want this thing to be over. But I just think with the landscape, the way that things are, and to tell you the truth, I got to give Billy Napier this, is there is something to be said for continuously getting your team up with the myriad of injuries they've had and the issues that they've dealt with, to have his team confident. And I think they have been really since Mississippi State. They have walked into every game really ready to go. And they've looked better consistently every week. And that takes a lot from a coach. And unlike your coach that you like there, Rob, he doesn't really he kind of puts the onus on himself as opposed to putting it on the players. I'm being sarcastic. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. But no, from the standpoint of, I think there's just so many variables. And like Brenden said, there's so many questions with where this thing could go. And I think the uncertainty I think the biggest issue, and maybe that's the thing, the elephant in the room is, who do you get? Now, do I think somebody mentioned, I was talking to somebody, they consistently bombard me with Frank Cignetti. Right. Now, would Cignetti leave Indiana to take Indiana? I think he would.
Absolutely.
I think he would.
But
I
now
think
you're
Signetti,
going. That's Billy Napier 2.0.
There you go. So where
I don't buy any of that.
So
I'm
where
not
we
that
so
guy.
where we go is James Franklin getting tired of arguing with students after the game before he rings the bell at Penn State. I mean, all of these things are questions, but yet you still have a football coach, and you got 4 more games to go and try to win. Which, if Lagway comes back, could there be an option? I don't know, but I think it's all those questions that come to it, Rob, and ultimately, this team is probably headed to what would be a 4th losing season, and at the end of the day, it's not acceptable at Florida. Like I said, I was with a couple big money dudes last night at women's basketball, and they're not happy. And one of them wanted to, my wife was talking to him. And he said, "Well, I'm gonna go talk to Scott Strickland." And my wife said, "Well, you better hurry up." And by the time, obviously Scott was doing double duty, doing women's basketball, then headed to Jacksonville for the guys' game against USF. And but he was on his way to kind of give Scott the business, so to speak. And so it's in that mode now. And that's what I think late November and December are going to be about is what does this thing do? And if they keep Billy Napier, we all know that this show will be full of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, what's going to happen, and what does that do to the program if you got a lame duck head coach, Rob?
Well, walk-on quarterbacks, Florida's had some good ones. Kerwin Bell out of Mayo, Florida. 1997, I remember y'all had a walk-on named Noah Brandeis out of Indian River, Florida. Pretty good quarterback. You have to think about Signetti. When he left James Madison, the Dukes, Curt Signetti brought 12 or 14 of his best players to Indiana. Keep in mind, Indiana has never won more than 9 games in a season. 1949 and 1967. They've never won 10 games in a season. He ain't going anywhere. And Lane Kiffin ain't going anywhere from Ole Miss. Nobody's going to outbid Ole Miss. The only reason Kiffin would go is if Ole Miss pushed him out the door. Again, Mississippi has less than 3 million people. Florida's got over 23 million. But Ole Miss will spend whatever it takes. I know some of their boosters, and they have enormous money. Just keep in mind the 15 attorneys from that tobacco settlement for all those people on the Gulf Coast. One guy alone, Dickie Scruggs, his take was $700 million. He spent 7.5 years in federal prison, bribes and stuff like that. He was Trent Lott's brother-in-law.
But he still got some money left over.
He got some money left over. And they didn't take his name off the buildings there on campus. But the Florida job is a great job. Something's starting to make me think, and I think, okay, I predicted a few weeks ago, a sack full of crystals, I bet it with you, that Florida wins 2 of the last 5 games. And damn it, they were looking pretty. Okay, keep in mind, I like this guy, one of your viewers talking about all the guys you lost the other day, and with 7 minutes left, that's a tie game. Now, that's something that you latch on to. If you're charting a stock, you look at trends and 200-day moving averages. You got to look at Florida. Now, Billy Napier can recruit, but it is frustrating. Too many men on the field and all that kind of stuff. That's the crap that's unacceptable. But I'm looking at Florida.
Welcome to the suck.
I know. I agree with you.
That's what's right.
I
I just feel like a lot of people. I think a lot of people are late to this party, and not you, Rob, but I just feel like in a lot of ways, Loren, like this conversation has been going on for over a year and a half now.
Oh yeah,
we and I have been talking in depth about it. So I guess again, we're talking about these same things. I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob, and I agree with what you're saying. I just feel like that we are at what's your cutoff point, right? What's the pay? What is there a cutoff point? Like, do you have a point where you're like, okay, this now I know Billy, we're done. This is good, or he's good for another year. If he wins 2 games, okay, he probably comes back for another year. If he doesn't win 2 games, does he come back for another Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Is it down to availability? Is it money? Is it buyout? Like, there's a lot of variables.
I think well, you just said it. I think that's the problem is there are so many variables with this thing. And like you said, I think we all could sit here, nod our head in a positive way if they chose to go in another direction. No doubt about it. I mean, it wouldn't even be, we could all say, okay, we totally understand. I mean, absolutely. But the problem is with all the variables involved, the buyout and just all these things, and a quarterback coming back that he definitely has a great relationship. You could see that. You got a lot of people coming back. If guys choose to return to the University of Florida, they will be a much more experienced football team. EJ Wilson, we'll talk about that, could even redshirt. So, because he only played in 4 games. So, he could redshirt. They've got guys coming back. They're going to be stocked in the backfield. The offensive line should be better. Defensive line possibly could, they've got the talent there. Will he be the guy to coach it? I don't know. I'm definitely not making I guess we're just throwing out reasons why Florida would want to keep him. Maybe I put my mark out there in the asterisk is the fact that none of us are necessarily campaigning for Billy Napier to stay.
No,
we're just saying based on what we've seen from football teams and our knowledge of the game and how this thing works, he could be the coach at Florida next year. Let me get to this spot real quick. Titan MRI, Gainesville, Lake City's newest MRI facility. Like we've talked about before, just a nice operation there. Titan MRI. They have the larger MRI machines for people like myself with claustrophobia, serving Gainesville, Lake City, surrounding areas. If you don't have insurance, they'll still, take you, get you an MRI for whatever injury you may have. You can walk in, no appointment needed. Titan MRI, Gainesville and Lake City's newest independent MRI facility, Titan MRI. I do want to give a shout out. Tommy Seal asked if I appreciate you, Tommy Seal. Last night I had the pleasure of being on the radio for the women's basketball game. The lady, or not the lady, I don't like that anymore. Gators women's basketball beat Florida Atlantic last night. And Tommy, I will be on a couple of broadcasts, not all of them, but I'll be on the next one and then a couple more this season. So appreciate that. But and then we want to give a shout out to Ty Golden. The Gators also got a big win against the scrappy USF team up in Jacksonville. So both Gator basketball teams are 1-0 and had big wins to start the season. So big win.
Rob, I want to ask you one question. When we were talking last week about Florida, prediction of the game, you asked me my prediction. I said to you, well, as long as DJ Lagway still stays healthy. See, I'm not trying to say him the prognosticator and all that stuff, but I'm telling you, if I can tell you, Rob, that, my concern is that these quarterbacks, I've told you all of this all year. In fact, I said, if Graham Mertz stays healthy all season, the Gators got a shot. And I also said, you're going to see DJ Lagway way earlier than you think you're going to see him in this before the season started, because I thought Graham Mertz was going to get hurt. I didn't think that they could protect him. I didn't feel like that was going to happen. I said to Rob, I don't know if Florida can win because I don't know if Lagway can stay not injured throughout the entire game, because they're going to light him up all day long. Because when you go to that game, it is a bloodbath. There's getting guys carted off and carts. I mean, that's a war. Florida Georgia is a war. I don't know if everyone know. You go to that game, it's a war.
No doubt.
They hate each other, and it's on, and it's a fierce rivalry, and it's physical. It's one of the more physical football rivalries I've ever seen, and it's getting starting to escalate, especially after the Meyer years and all that. So anyway, I'm just saying, like, I was concerned with that because I don't know if your coach can scheme and strategize enough to keep your quarterback safe. Can you make the right decisions and do these kinds of things? And I just feel like if I made that sort of prediction and I'm sitting here, and it literally plays out in front of me, and so, like, I guess I got to still continue to believe with what I believe in is Billy's not the guy. He shouldn't be there. And I don't feel like he should come back next year, even if, because I don't really feel like, we can continue to have these excuses. We can't continue to say the same things that shoulda, coulda, wouldas down to a snap, down to this. It's time, in my opinion, because if you go through another season of this,
Yeah,
I quit.
I
quit.
There's well, I'm gonna tell you right now.
I'll quit.
You might want to go. Can you produce like I don't even know Christian.
I'm gonna
Christian
start doing
radio or something like
podcasting
that.
for dating. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be called The Hive.
I'm just telling you, and I'm telling our viewers too. I mean, it's one of those things where, and Rob, you know this. I mean, you said it. He could be the foot. I mean, who do you get? What do you go do? And like you said, Frank Cignetti would be a great choice. There's a lot of other guys that would make sense, and we've thrown those names out for weeks.
Frank Cignetti would be a terrible choice.
Well, then
his name is Kurt Cignetti.
Kurt Cignetti, excuse me, not Frank. Kurt Cignetti. I don't know why
I had to do that to you.
I appreciate it, but yeah, I mean, Cignetti would be like, I mean, you know, like they said, Billy Napier 2.0, Jamie Chadwell, Billy Napier 2.0, but you know, those are the guys outside of Spurrier, who was a household name.
I'll take Nick Saban.
I'll take Nick Saban for $100.
Right. I mean, you're either going to get, you know, somebody that a lot of people. Now we cover it, we know it, we know the names, things like that, but other people don't. We know the assistants, we know those guys. It's gonna be, oh, who's that dude? You know, and it's gonna be, I've never heard. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like, I was talking to a Florida fan, and I was having a conversation. Somebody said, well, if they fire Billy, who's gonna be the and this is a Florida fan, and they said, who's gonna be the interim coach? I said, well, maybe it might just be, you know, like Mike Peterson or somebody. And they literally said to me, Mike Peterson, who is that? So I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
We're dealing with, though.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. And you know, I wanted to also say the issue is, I think the thing that Billy Napier has going against him, and this will kind of segue into where we want to go next. Vanderbilt being bowl eligible is not a good look for Billy Napier. Vanderbilt sweeping. Oh, me too.
I'm a Commodore fan now, baby.
Sweeping. Well, you know, and it's funny. There were people that were like, we should have relegation in the SEC. And I was like, who would you relegate? They were like, Vanderbilt. And I'm like, that didn't age well at all. You know, sweeping the state of Alabama for the first time since 1955. I mean, that is going in the right direction for Clark Lee. And you see that. And even the fact that he's 1-1 against Billy Napier.
Can we go hire Clark Lee?
You know, so I mean, it's one of those things. So when you see that, Rob, and you see the success of those programs that have far less resources, what if when Billy Napier sits down with the powers that be, I mean, what would be the case that he himself could make when you've got those out there as well?
All right, I'm going to throw out three things. Number one, people aren't doing this, but I look at finance, I look at numbers all day long, charts, graphs, everything. Whatever the buyout is for Billy Napier, let's say it's $26 million.
Roughly,
add $21 million to that. That's $47 million. You know why? That damn house settlement everybody's got to pay out. So all these colleges, they ain't going to be doing buyouts right now. I'll tell you right now. And Rhett Lashley, I talked to a guy that knows Rhett very well. I used to work with one of his teammates. Okay, Rhett ain't leaving SMU.
Why would you?
Okay, if you know anything about Highland Park,
right?
They did a 7-day fundraiser when they joined the ACC, $150 million, and I know several SMU people. One of my son's closest friends works out there in sports marketing in Dallas. They got him a big boy football program now. Why would Rhett Lashley, who's coached 7 or 8 years at Auburn, his twins were born there, he was thrown under the bus by Gus, you know, get in line with all the other ones. But Rhett Lashley isn't leaving SMU to go into a sausage grinder like the SEC when in his first year in the ACC, he might win the whole damn thing and be in the playoffs. Now, they didn't make these first rankings, but watch out. And number 3, you got to think about this when it comes to making a coaching move. Lane Kiffin, for all the love he gets, and I think he's a hell of a coach. I'm going to throw some numbers out. 3-20. That's his record against teams that finish with 9 or more wins in a season. Okay? Let that resonate, people. Let that marinate in your brains. Okay. You can say, oh, the Florida job or this job or whatever. If a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup. He's got pretty damn good talent at Ole Miss. He should be winning more of those games. Now, I picked Florida to win 2 of their last 5 games. Damn it, they came close the other day. What happens if Georgia curb stomps Ole Miss in the Grove this coming Saturday? How motivated will Ole Miss be? They'll have a bunch of guys like in the military that are short. You know, they got 2 or 3 weeks left. They ain't real motivated. You know, they're ready to get out.
Short-timers.
Right. Short-timers. So watch out. That's why I caution against logo fever, man. Now, what would get, and Brenden referenced this a minute ago, what would be the tipping point? We can't take this anymore with Billy Napier if you lose to Florida State. Because Florida State's deal is not DJ Lagway. I mean, DJ Uiagalelei is not a good quarterback. It's not a particular player. It is a cultural problem. Their locker room is garbage. They have a bunch of quitters and whiners that quit on that team when they didn't make the playoff, and that coaching staff, that university, fueled that narrative, and they got exactly what they deserve. And I wish Georgia would have beat them 100-0. Nothing against Florida State, but they quit. 31 of them bailed on the team. There's no camaraderie. There's no brotherhood there. I hadn't seen anybody quit on the Florida Gators.
No
doubt. I'm going to tell you one thing that Brenden just mentioned. That is a war. That is a damn 15-round
That is a war
fight when those two teams play. And the fans of Florida pack that stadium 90,000 every damn game. They give their money. They are the Florida. They're doing everything you're asking them to do. But I'm with both of y'all are so much smarter on this. Billy Napier, you can't have 12 men on the field. Stop. It's paralysis by analysis. Curt Cignetti comes in there to Indiana. Now, if they beat Ohio State, I think Indiana is 10-58 against Michigan all time. There's some crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, I mean, they got them back to back. I mean, they got Michigan and then they got Ohio State. I mean, they get those. It's a whole nother ball game.
Then we're talking Curt Cignetti. Yeah.
Right. And that leads us kind of where we're going next. The college football playoff rankings. The first rankings were released tonight. 12-team playoff, first time in history. And before we get to that, we'll talk about Meldon Law, the only official law firm of the Florida Gators. Meldon Law, we won't back down. Meldon Law does a lot for the University of Florida, sponsors men's and women's basketball. They treated somebody to a really nice experience for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party this past weekend, hotel, dinner, limousine to the game, things like that. So, follow Meldon Law. They do a lot for the community. They've helped the UF band, and just really appreciate Meldon Law for all their support. Meldon Law, we won't back down. So the college football playoff rankings were announced a little while ago, and obviously Oregon was number 1. Ohio State number 2, Georgia number 3, Miami number 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU 9, Notre Dame 10, Alabama 11, and Boise State rounds out the top 12. Any surprises there for you, Rob?
Alabama would be one. They're lucky they're not. They didn't lose 3 in a row. No, they beat Missouri. Missouri's certainly not in there. Brigham Young, Notre Dame.
BYU is good. Looks good though.
BYU's okay, but I mean they're not going to go out and dominate anybody. I will say
they're all like 30.
Ole Miss is not in there.
No, Ole Miss is 8. Ole Miss is 16th. Ole Miss is behind LSU and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I mean, I thought
a win against Georgia in the Grove this weekend would obviously help with that. What about you, Brenden? Anything stand out or anybody you want to give?
I mean,
you like Notre Dame at 10?
I don't like Notre Dame at anything because
well,
I just don't believe the Domers don't. I just think that's crap. Their whole deal's crap. I don't. That's cheating.
I think that for our listeners, I know a lot of people really.
They don't have to getting there is just too easy.
Right. Well,
Penn State has no business being in the top 10.
I agree with Rob. I don't put BYU in my top 10. No way. I got to throw out BYU. I mean, Indiana. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to see them against some real opponents. I give Notre Dame 10. I mean, I think Bama. I mean, I don't know. I'm with Rob on that. I don't know. I think it's all pretty decent. My biggest holdout would be BYU and Indiana. I think that the rest of them are pretty close.
Well, and let me throw this out there. So Indiana, Notre Dame, I know a lot of people hate Notre Dame's independence, but the one thing that college football playoff has done is it penalizes Notre Dame for their independence because top four conferences get the top four. So the winners of the four conferences get the top 4 spots. And then Notre Dame, because of their independence, can never be no more than 5th, which means they will never get a first round bye in the college football playoff.
Until
they'll get a home game, but they'll never get the, but
I mean, they don't. I don't know. When you come when you come in and you're not hurt and you got all your guys and you've had a little softball season, hanging out
they play. You ask them, they play ACC schedule. I mean, I'm definitely not campaigning for Notre Dame.
ACC schedule.
Well, and that's the question. I think that you have to ask yourself, and so I think Alabama's in there because of the Georgia win. I think Ohio State is above Georgia because of the loss on the road. But even though Georgia lost on the road, it was a lot closer, tight-knit game than it was, till the very end, but they were really far behind. I like Penn State at 6. I know a lot of people are down on Penn State, but watching that football game, I mean, yes, Ohio State kind of kept Penn State in the game, but Penn State kept fighting. I mean, I would, if I had to bet the farm, I'd bet Penn State over Tennessee. I was not impressed with Tennessee whatsoever. So what stands out to me is Tennessee is 7. And, I guess the question, if it ended tomorrow, there would be a 7-8 matchup with Indiana and Tennessee. And I think we're going to find out a lot about Indiana. And if it kind of stays that way, could they be a team? I mean, I think Tennessee is very lucky to just have 1 loss. I mean, very, very lucky. And
in 3 of Tennessee's last 4 games, they failed to score a single point in the first half.
There you go.
Penn State, everybody talks about Lane Kiffin again, 3-20 against teams that finish with 9 or more wins. James Franklin against top 5 opponents, 1-13. Quit getting excited about these guys that beat up on the people they're supposed to beat up on and can't win the big games.
Right. But my rebuttal to that, Rob, is the fact that isn't Georgia like 48-0 against teams outside the state of Georgia? I mean, nobody's beating. Nobody's beating Ohio State. Nobody's beating Michigan. Nobody's beating. I mean, I guess that's the one stat sometime. Like, Ohio State shouldn't lose to Penn State. They shouldn't. Like my brother said earlier, he's Ohio State grad. We don't lose to Penn State. They shouldn't beat Ohio State. Ohio State should be. That's my thing. For me, Penn State in the Big Ten is a 11-1, 10-2 team year in and year out, and they should be happy with that because you don't have what the Buckeyes have. And like I tell people, and you know this, Rob, the Buckeyes are an SEC school sitting in Columbus. I mean, the fans are just as crazy as they are down here. I mean, I've seen people wait outside the Ohio State Michigan game to jump people in blue and maize. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I give Franklin a pass, and even somewhat Lane Kiffin, because even Lane at Ole Miss, Lane shouldn't beat Alabama. Lane shouldn't beat Georgia. It's Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's my thing. And maybe with the playoff, though, you can say to yourself, you catch lightning in a bottle, and maybe you get that. But on a year-in, year-out basis, he has beat Michigan 3 times. So, I mean, I guess that's my thing is sitting in the middle of nowhere in Happy Valley, it's like guys that win at Kansas State. You get 9 wins at Kansas State, you better be happy. Because if you've ever made the trip, and Rob, you know this, if you ever made the trip from Kansas City to Manhattan, Kansas.
I've been to the Little Apple, lived there for a month.
Yeah, well, I was there for a weekend, and that's all I need to see. So, I mean,
hey,
I
it's a
think
party town, man. Come on.
So, I mean, it is a party town. They get down, but I mean, I think that like somebody said,
Good
Ohio
football
State has a $20 million roster. I mean, I think that part of it, I think, is unfair. And maybe it's the former coach in me. I think it's unfair sometimes to coaches to throw those out there, particularly at schools where if I was Ryan Day, and I don't think Ryan Day would have a job if he was 500 against James Franklin at Ohio State. I mean, so it's one of those things where the Ohio State fans feel like James Franklin is doing just a good enough job because they shouldn't be beating Ohio State anyway. I mean, that's the thing. Now, if Cignetti goes out and knocks off Michigan and Ohio State in consecutive weeks, that's a whole nother ball game, and that's another discussion we got to have. But I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob. I'm just
going to throw another stat at you. You talk about not playing true road games against top 10 opponents. Most schools are scared to do it, other than intra-conference games. Mm-hmm. LSU has a great football tradition. They're like the 11th or 12th winningest program in the history of college football. You've got Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn right there together, 10, 12, 11, 13. But LSU in their entire history in a non-conference road game against top 10 opponents, you know how many victories they have on true road games against top 10 opponents in their 132-year rich history? They have one. They beat Texas when Texas was in the top 10 in that shootout. It took a full 60 in 2019, okay? Right. It's very rare. You remember Florida in 1991? Mm-hmm. Man, Gators were on a roll. They just won the SEC in 1990. Yeah, I'll give it to them. They went up to Syracuse and got killed. I mean, what we need more of is more inter-conference games where you have to go on. Like, I would like to see an SEC Big Ten challenge. Let's take LSU to Penn State in November, and let's bring Ohio State down to the Swamp in early September for the 11 a.m. steam bath. Okay, let's take Alabama
for
to
the bath.
Minnesota in late November outside. I mean, we have so little to go off of. These bowl games, let's face it, most of these SEC schools have a bunch of babies with pout faces, with little pout fish faces. When they don't make the Big Six or the playoff and they go to a January bowl in Florida, they're going down there. They don't want to be there. The Big Ten fans, 40 or 50,000 of them come down there. They all look like Casper the Ghost. They want to get some sun. And they're down there. That's their Super Bowl.
Wow.
I mean, you see it every year.
No doubt about it. No, you're exactly right.
It's an attitude thing. I'm telling you, we've got some of the biggest babies on these rosters. And with NIL and the portal like we have now, I had a coach tell me at an SEC school this week, off the record, off air, it's going to be anonymous. He goes, I got walk-ons coming in my office every day saying they can't live in said college town, an SEC town, for less than $10,000 a month. They're walk-ons. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you got to get out my office. And we talk about, you got to get out my office. I want to get to this before we kind of roll down this, but you're right, Rob. I get it. Who outside of the 12? So we got SMU, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Pitt, and there'll be 7-1, and we'll stop there. Looking at those schools kind of on the outside, and we welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, Buddy Martin. Who do we like from the outside that could find their way into that 12-team playoff?
SMU.
Of those teams that we mentioned on the outside.
The Ponies, SMU.
You look into that group from 12 to 15 in there. There's a lot of good teams yet that come out of there, and these games this next couple of weeks are going to have a little bearing on that. Ole Miss is still a mystery team. We're not sure. They're awful good on defense. Their quarterback's hot. He's the best player they've ever had at that position. You still got LSU to act out.
Ooh, really, buddy? You think so?
Well, I mean, look, the gap.
The Manning family just gasped in their chairs. I just
restated. The numbers you put up last week were records. 6 touchdown passes and 500.
No, yeah, he did. I'm just messing with you.
No, he's not better than them. I'm just saying he's the best thing we've seen there in a long time. Okay,
right.
I think their defense is better than we thought. LSU is a team that to be reckoned with. I don't know how it's going to play out. These last 2 or 3 weeks going to be like a demolition derby. We talk all year long about getting down to this point, down to the nub in the SEC, where you better have some depth. And we're seeing and we're hearing, and Rob, you heard on your show by numerous people, these teams don't have the depth they used to have. And consequently, when you get down to your third string quarterback, as you see in Aiden Warner, then you're going to have to start thinking, how do you get depth? Because this is where it's going to show up. I somehow don't feel like Oregon is the best team, but I can't prove it. So I think if you look at that third group in there, I don't have it in front of me. Look from 12 through 15 or 12 through 17. There's several teams there that could break through. And I think. Now, having said that, I'm not going to quit on Georgia.
I'm not either.
Georgia, Georgia's right there.
I know, but there's something they're not even the top 3 teams or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, should they have maybe a loss? I mean, were they in trouble maybe Saturday? But I mean, that happens. I don't like Tennessee at 7. I'm gonna keep
struggling right now. You throw 9 picks.
I agree.
You got something wrong. So,
right.
I
don't like Tennessee at 7, and I'm gonna say I think I like Pitt. I think Pitt could maybe make some noise.
They got hammered last week.
Yeah,
no, they did.
I like SMU.
SMU's kind of a tricky team. Team. I don't know. Actually's got those guys playing really good. I got my first look at them last week, and I'm telling you, I don't know. We all think about this SEC dominance, but there's some good teams out there. And you get it down to 12, and you can start playing elimination games. Things can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, I like Pitt.
Texas. I mean, God.
Rob likes SMU. Yeah, I mean, Texas still hanging out there. I mean,
they're plenty. A&M. I mean, shit, it didn't matter. We got half a season.
But I'm saying out there, yeah, out on the outside, you got SMU, Texas A&M, LSU. You got Ole Miss. Like I said, jury's still out there. I don't think any of us are really buying Iowa State. We might be. And then
they do with the children's stuff.
And then people are going to throw out this one just because it's the popular pick. Anybody even got anything for Colorado and the Fighting prime times?
6-2 and on the upswing, playing good.
Fighting prime time.
Yeah.
You like that one?
I like that as much as I like my Rangers hockey puck from Buddy Bud's days, right here.
Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss has got this game against Georgia. I think Georgia. I mean. Who in the country? Okay, Oregon played at home against Ohio State, on the road at Michigan. Michigan sucks. They're not very good. That's yesterday's news. Yeah. They're not. Okay. And they beat Ohio State at home. But the one you better watch out for, Georgia. They had a bad first quarter. Alabama made them happen against Alabama. But they came back, had the game until they didn't. And they went out and just ass-whipped Texas. Texas got punched in the – I don't think Texas likes physical football. I'm going to talk to Ken Capps on the show in the morning. Great writer out in Texas, knows that program well. I don't think they like it, and I don't think they can handle the grind. They're not tough enough. They're not physical enough. And if Florida goes out there believing that they can win, CBA, conceive it, believe it, achieve it, watch out. Saturday could be very interesting. And the game.
Rob, are you saying the Longhorns are pretty? Is that what you're trying to say to me? It's just like a pretty.
Nobody eats
pretty.
Longhorn
The pretty boys of the SEC with a glass jaw. Is that what you're saying?
I think Florida's got to have Lagway.
Yes,
you like that, Rob?
If Lagway doesn't play, it's going to be a long day.
No, Lagway doesn't play. He
shouldn't play. Let's not play him. Can we just be hurt the rest of the season? He come back next year.
So. Buddy, what do you think?
I don't see any way in the world that Lagway gets on the field.
No.
It may be later, but then why? Billy Napier is coaching for his job naturally. I've talked to a lot of people. I got to call Dr. Pete Delicato next week and find out. That hamstring, you just don't come back like that.
No.
And you talked about the injuries, Brenden. Those are non-contact injuries, That wasn't like they got beat, but I mean, Lagway.
Well, yeah, but it's a non-con. I suffered from hamstring injury in high school.
Oh, they're horrible.
They're horrible,
and you never know. They're almost. You got to almost sit down. Period.
And they are from overexerting yourself. They are from.
I'm not making light of that. I'm saying the kind of physicality, though, they don't have much to do with physicality.
What? I mean.
The hamstrings don't have that much to do with physical.
Oh, I disagree. I completely disagree.
They do.
You have to drive into something or somebody.
It has to do with your bottom half of your body. You didn't get to take a hit. It's like you got a concussion. It's a different kind of injury. It's almost a non. He fell down.
Why did he fall down? Over wear and tear of his hamstring for the entire game from running and cramping and running for his life. I mean, that's part of it.
A non-contact injury is not, not.
He could have been contact. It could have had contact prior. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't feel like a hamstring's not in Florida, Georgia. I don't feel like anything.
That's what it's called. Anyway, whatever.
He strained it and pulled it. But I tell you what, and it's the kind of thing that's
no matter what caused it, he won't be there. He won't. He probably won't be available in Austin, which makes it, and that's the thing is if
was it a pull or a tear?
I think it's got to be a pull. If it's a tear, he
could be a strain.
Yeah, strain or
Because if it's a tear, if it's a micro tear, which I had, you can't. Well, you're in crutches for like 6 weeks.
No, I don't think it was a micro tear because it would probably shown up on the MRI. So it didn't. Okay. It didn't. No, the MRI I think showed what would be pull, strain. Use whatever terminology you want to use. That would be, obviously that would be the issue. So it's gonna. But the problem with, and you guys know this. The problem with pulls or strains is one little push, a little, tweak, and you re-aggravate it, and it becomes it's a nag. It's like what I call a hitch in the chassis. It's just a nag and a nag and a nag. No matter what, no matter what happens, as far as that concerned. But
Rob's granddaddy called it a hitch you get along.
Yeah, hitch in the giddy up.
Hitch in the giddy up.
You ever pulled a hamstring? I pulled one.
I have.
And I was playing softball one time, and I was running so fast, and it popped, and it threw me. I face planted, and I was. I mean, it.
Is there video of this?
15 days. It took 15 days to recover, and but I think what I did so much biking and running and swimming, your hamstring is what picks up your leg.
But wait, was that a contact injury?
No, but when you plant. When you
plant and drive,
think about how big the quadricep muscles are on a guy like DJ Lagway. Right. So much weight training. I mean, none of us are doctors, but we've all had these injuries. But I'll tell you, how costly was it for Brady Cook to come back in late and get that win against a woefully bad Auburn team? When he went on the road the next week in Tuscaloosa, he was out and they were beating 34-0, and he's probably, I don't know what he's going to do the rest of the year, but he tried to be a hero, okay? And look what it's cost him. I'm with y'all, because if Florida loses to Florida State, all bets are off, as Buddy would say, about Billy Napier. You can't lose.
Yeah, it's over.
You cannot lose to Tallahassee Burning.
There's a lot of
worst I've ever seen.
That's a whole nother.
But again, it's a ririvalry game. That's why
Billy Napier is 1-9 against his rivals.
Right.
Well, here's the thing too. We could tell people, what is it? November 30th. November 30th. Whatever time. 30 minutes after the game's over. If Florida State beats Florida, we will be going live on the Buddy Martin Show. I can guarantee.
Pop-up show.
Guaranteed.
It would definitely be a pop-up show for that. Stay tuned.
Buddy will be like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Like, hear ye.
Oh, Signetti on the phone.
Yeah. So let's go through this. So let's talk about this. Martin. Who's been to Austin? Let's help the fans out. I'm making the first trip out. So let's give our fans a little bit before we close out. let's give the Buddy Martin Show guide to Austin for those that are making the trip on a lighter note. So what you got, Brenden?
Well, what you I know what you want to do. You want to find a restaurant, and then you want to find a place. You're very particular. Loren is very particular. He likes to plan it all out, knows where he's going, what he's doing. I don't know. I think it's 6th Street, 8th Street. What is it?
6th Street. 6th Street.
6th Street. 6th Street. You got to go. Got to check it out. You know, obviously a huge comedy scene down there right now. Joe Rogan opened up a huge comedy store down there, which is going bananas. So there's a ton of great comedy down there. There's 6th Street's got everything that you want as far as just cruising and checking out Austin, man. Crunch of music, you can just go right down and check it out. And then there's you got to get a good Texas barbecue while you're there, because they got tons of that stuff there. Austin is the weird Texas, as they call it. They're the redheaded stepchild over there. They're like the partiers and they're the hippies of Texas.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a few years. I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I love DKR, and I love what they represented back then. And I would say for Austin city limits if it was me, but that's not the point. I don't know the food scene there anymore, so I can't help you much. But I think it's just a historic moment when Florida plays in Austin and plays Texas. Really, to be honest with you, back in the 60s, Texas was my favorite team. I loved that team back then. After I met Darrell Royal, I thought, man, why couldn't I play for that guy? He was amazing. So I think, look, I mean, we all kid about Texans thinking everything's bigger and better. Austin's a big city. It's a really nice city. There's a lot of good food there. Forget your politics if you don't like that kind of thing. The bottom line is it's a really welcome addition to the SEC.
Rob?
Just sent you Ken Cap's contact information. He's a good friend of mine. I've gotten to know him several years ago at Media Days, and he's on the show. He'll be on the show tomorrow morning at 8:30 on this show. I just sent you his number. Reach out to him tonight, okay? Text him. He's an Austin native, lives in Dallas, Football Writers Association of America, basically a de facto chief executive officer of the Austin Chamber of Commerce, okay? He knows every good restaurant, bar.
We got to have him on the show.
Yeah, he'll be on. He's incredible. I mean, Ken is he's got a hook 'em hut, at his house, but he's objective. Got a master's from Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern, but he's a Texas guy. Everybody knows about Franklin's Barbecue, but it's too crowded. Cisco's. If you like Tex-Mex food, go to Cisco's. My kids will fly out to those music festivals in Red Rocks, Colorado, and Austin, Texas. There's so much
South by
to do
Southwest is in Austin. It's a great music festival. Yeah.
Y'all, you are going to have they got bumper
great
stickers
town
out there.
No, it's a really fun
keep
town.
It weird. And
keep it weird.
And here's a little, so you'll know that you're hip when you get there. Excuse me, sir. How far am I from the 40 acres? That's what they call the campus. The campus of the University of Texas is on 40 acres, and their endowment, drum roll please, just surpassed $43 billion. They got some money
with a B.
But the Gators have won more national championships since 1996 than they've won in the last 60 years. Right. But I digress. You're going to have a great time.
Speaking of national championship and planning, I will be at Vince Young Steakhouse Saturday night. If anybody wants to come say hello, I've already got reservations, hanging out with some folks there. And I was kind of a Texas fan too, buddy, but it was a little later in life after Mac Browne left UNC and went to Texas. I'm a big Mac Browne guy. Worked some of his football camps when I was in North Carolina. So big Mac Browne guy. So when Mac Browne was at Texas, I was definitely a kind of closet, always with the Gators, but a closet Horns fan.
I'll bet you I'll be over at 1010 on West 6th.
So with that, guys, we're going to say good night. Appreciate you guys being on, and, this is great. Definitely appreciate everybody coming out, tuning in to the show. Any last words? I mean, the lusters kind of fell off this matchup, but anybody got a score prediction?
I just want to say a quick thank you to Meldon Law and Titan MRI and Renstar, if I can, for being the sponsor of this show.
Absolutely. Renstar Medical Research. seeking tomorrow's answers for the questions of today.
Health questions.
Health questions of the day.
Yeah.
We're going to school you up with that.
Yeah, I'm getting
You're
there.
getting good. You're getting good. Yeah,
appreciate Renstar, and shout out to Scott Brantley as well. Continued recovery.
Yeah.
Hope to see Scott tomorrow night.
Yeah. Rob, what show time tomorrow? You want to fill in the kids?
Yeah, we're going to be kicking off 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. Bat and lead off Jordan Davis Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. Chris Plank, Plank Show, sideline reporter for the Sooner Football Network. Plank, what do you got? Kind of like Loren and Larry. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, out in Texas, will be on talking about that Texas-Florida matchup. Call him, text him tonight, hook up with him. He's a great friend of ours in this show. He like Buddy. Buddy is my mentor in writing. He puts everything, he has like pages of notes when he comes on here. You're going to love this guy. And Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal up in Knoxville will hit all 16 of them, man. But thank you so much for letting me share this tonight. Love it when Buddy comes on, because it's like when Buddy comes on, it's like the coaches in there. Everybody's like, I love it.
Tighten us up.
Thanks a lot,
guys. All right, thanks a lot. Shout out to those Meadowdale Lions. Join Gatorbait Media. You can read myself, Buddy Martin, Franz Beard, and others, and Carlton Reese.
Song again, will you?
Sir?
I said, sing that song again, Loren.
Meadowdale, Meadowdale, our hearts belong to you. Shout out Meadowdale High School.
Holy shnikes!
Marshall went there too.
All right, check us out tomorrow on our show, same time, same bat station, 9 a.m. Eastern.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Go Gators.